Lunch break.
Good afternoon and welcome to Lunch Break, a midday chat at the virtual Soul Cinema Cafe, where we discuss topics related to soul cinema, culture, community, and change. The Soul Cinema Cafe is a Harlem-based click and mortar business. That means we're located online and offline in brick and mortar venues. I am the CEO, Mwikansi Kama, and I run the enterprise with my husband and partner, Gregory Gates. Our virtual box office is always open, and there's always an awesome independent film available 24/7 at the Soul Cinema Cafe. This week, we're showing the long lost documentary Nation Time. It's a recap of the National Black Convention held in Gary, Indiana in 1972. Directed by the late, great Bill Greaves, this historic documentary features appearances by Harry Belafonte, Jesse Jackson, Dick Gregory, Coretta Scott King, Betty Shabazz, Amiri Baraka, and so many others. We're also showing Coded Bias, a documentary by Shalini Shentaya that explores racial bias in artificial technology. This film is now playing in theaters, and of course, you can see it here and now at the virtual Soul Cinema Cafe. Today, we are blessed to have filmmaker and activist Riley S. Wilson join us to discuss his amazing web project, Little Apple Universe, which is based on his awesome character and Shiro, Little Apple. All right, Soul family, please join me as we welcome Riley S. Wilson. How are you, Riley?
Hi, Kansi. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I really love your work. I absolutely am in love with the whole Little Apple Universe project and concept. So for those who don't know, just give us an overview of what the web platform is and what Little Apple Universe is.
Sure. Little Apple Universe is a digital streaming experience that provides programming, comics, animation, as well as curriculum to go along with the content. Most of our content, all of our content has to do with sci-fi fantasy with some drama twist to it. And what we do is we create programming, particularly for young Black children, but also families and educators. We create programming, and we also provide curriculum and resources to go along with that programming. So a lot of it is, the way we see it, it's Afrofuturism as edutainment.
Okay. It really is absolutely gorgeous. The content is compelling and really just, nice, really edifying for our kids and for, I think, anyone. You don't even have to be a child of color to benefit from it. When you came to school at Columbia University and showed it to the kids there, I love to see how all of the children were gravitated towards that character and kind of really embraced the concept. So I think it's really a special piece. But let's see the trailer. Let's let people see a little bit of what Little Apple is.
Absolutely.
School was good. Did you learn anything?
I can tell you what she learned. And what do you do if you encounter racism?
Ma,
What do you do?
I act as the compliant victim.
What'd you learn?
It's all kumbaya until white folks actually have to choose.
I was in the principal's office this afternoon because she actually felt like teaching the class herself.
Apple.
They want me to keep lying to myself, huh?
What exactly was she supposed to be participating in regarding Christopher Columbus?
Well, we were helping the children memorize something for an upcoming quiz. It is a requirement.
And are you teaching the students that Columbus discovered America? And what did you do?
I said it was a lie.
Well, it is a lie. High five.
Check it out. This is how it's going down. Start it up, take it back now. Check it out. This is how it's going down. And if you're ready, let me hear you say.
I mean, if I wanted to learn all the wrong things about the world, I don't.
I'm thinking about going to the protest tomorrow, though. I think it's something I should do. Seems important.
It's not my fault you're contributing to that racism.
Do I need to call a school officer?
You didn't make
Out!
Donald Trump is coming to speak.
Okay, goodbye. That is not what I wanted you to say.
The fight for racial justice is something white people join, not me. That's just the fact.
All right. So that was awesome. Extremely awesome. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to let folks know that if you are on the Soul Cinema website, you can actually log in and chat and make comments, and we'd love to hear from you. And if you're on Facebook, we'd love to hear from you as well. So Riley, that was the trailer. Tell us a bit about this character, because of course the Little Apple universe is based on Little Apple, who is wonderful and precocious and a Harlemite. Uptown baby. But tell us a bit about her. Tell us where she comes from.
Absolutely. So Little Apple is born and raised in Harlem, right around 118th Street.
Okay.
And she is, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. She is a young Black girl who is developing special abilities and obviously living in the current time. So what she's doing as she's developing these abilities, she's also walking and leaning into her agency. And what that means is just like being able to understand herself, her presence, and her power. And so what happens is throughout the season is she's basically given the question, does she stay a little girl and just sort of fall in line with what society tells her to do? Or does she start to speak up against or in support of racial justice and in defense of other people, like her gender non-conforming friends, and in defense of her neighbors against gentrification, is really questioning what do children experience when it comes to systems of oppression and how do they navigate, or how do we help them navigate those environments?
Okay, and so we know who Little Apple is, but what inspired you to create this character, and what made you decide to make her a little girl?
What inspired me? I mean, a few things. Definitely my little sister inspired me to create this character. But there was also this video online that I remember seeing when a few years ago, before I started writing Little Apple, about this little girl from my hometown who was physically assaulted in the classroom. And thrown across the room, really,
By a security guard?
By a school officer.
Yeah, I remember that. She was an older teenager, right? Maybe 15, 16.
A teenager, yeah. But my sister is from that town. And so I wanted to create something that feeling that I got, that feeling of fear, that feeling of just not being in control and being sort of this victim, I wanted to create something that would be the antithesis to that.
Okay.
You know, I wanted to create something that would empower people. You know, like, because when I see videos like that, it's not just me watching it. I realize it's you, it's your children, it's my grandparents, it's like everyone watching this video and sort of like internalizing trauma repeatedly. And so I wanted to create something that would be opposite of that, where we could internalize empowerment, you know, and be led by a little Black girl, because honestly, I don't see any type of liberation happening without Black women in the forefront.
Amen.
So it just made
ask Kamala and Joe.
Okay, shout out to Kamala.
Right. Okay, so that's amazing. I never knew that was what inspired you to do that piece, and I think it is so important that we create projects that empower and inspire us. I know I've always loved sci-fi. I've always loved fantasy, animation, all of that, because I feel like it allows us to go beyond reality and create our own realities. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you know, there's.
That's what's necessary, right? In order for us to build a future that is outside of the scope of our oppressors,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
outside of reach, we have to lean into our imagination. And Afrofuturism, I think, is that vehicle that we can use for that. Because think about it, a lot of what Afrofuturism is about is envisioning us free.
Yes, yes,
You know,
yeah.
free of mind, free of space, you know, free with technology. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. To me, I'm going to digress a bit, but like to me, that's why I just so fell in love with Lovecraft Country. Did you see Lovecraft Country?
Yeah.
Yes, right. So it's just that ability to kind of just go as far as you want to go. That's what I
Yeah.
love about Afrofuturism, science fiction, all of it. And
Mhm.
so, you've taken this piece, you've empowered this young lady. And so, what exactly are her powers? I mean, we know she has a voice, she speaks, but what else does she have?
So her actual power is called claircognizance.
Okay.
And to explain it, it's like clairvoyance, like, you know, go to a, you know, crystal ball lady, you know,
Mhm.
like clairvoyance, but of the mind. So imagine someone being able to walk into a room and immediately download information about everything in that room. Who you are, your name, your height, your weight, your trajectories to a particular area, basically that. But also, there's two sides of that. Apple's power allows her to manipulate time
Mhm.
or influence time and space. And so what happens is in the trailer, you can see a glimpse of that, but she's able to see this in this other plane where she can understand and see aura from people. And
Wow.
that is part of information that, you know, we all have as well. We all have energies, right?
Uh-huh.
We're all composed of atoms, protons, neutrons, electrons.
Mhm.
Um, and so, but Apple is able to see that as it comes up through us. Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, what's it called again? Clear what?
Claircognizance.
Clear cognizance. And where did you learn about that, or did you create that? Is that a thing?
It's a thing.
Okay.
It's a thing. I mean, well, that's the great thing about sci-fi, right? It's a little bit
Mhm.
of, eh, it's science, but with a little twist.
Well, yeah, yeah. But I guess what I'm saying
Usually,
is, did you make up that particular power? Did you read about it
well,
with
I
another
added some.
character who had it?
I embellished it a little bit,
Okay.
well, quite a bit. You know, claircognizance is really just like the mind piece
Mm-hmm.
of it, but
Mm-hmm.
I added in the aura reading and the ability to manipulate aura and time and space. I added that in a bit. So,
That is so awesome. And so, who inspires you in terms of sci-fi and as an artist in general?
who inspires me? Well, I mean, my mom is a scientist. I mean, she teaches science. She's a
Oh,
teacher.
okay.
Um, and so I've always grown up with her and like, you know, learning about atoms and
Mm-hmm.
with her chemistry set, collecting insects. So I guess like from a science perspective, her,
Mm-hmm.
but also from a narrative perspective and as a creative, I definitely lean on Baldwin and Octavia Butler. I mean,
Yes.
look at the time we're in.
Mm-hmm.
um, Obviously Stephen King as well. I grew up reading a lot of Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Current comments and recent comments aside, um, you know, I pay attention as far as like filmmakers go. It's I'm pretty random with my influences when it comes to certain things. Like,
Okay.
you know, I obviously like I pay attention to, you know, Stanley Nelson. Stanley Nelson, someone I reference, Lisa Cortez. Like
Mm-hmm.
these are people that I
Lisa's
follow
awesome.
for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
um, but also, you know, I don't know, my influences range. I mean, I watch a lot of anime as well,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm in animation. So, um, yeah. But as a writer, most of my influences come from a writer perspective, and those are the writers that I usually lean towards.
Okay. Awesome. We have Deidre Fisher Kemp. Does she have a question, or is it just she's saying that she loves the issue of racial injustice embedded, I guess, in the project and throughout? How do you encourage children to kind of grapple with and embrace the issues in the project? I know you said you have a curriculum. So
Yes.
how have you been kind of exposing children to the curriculum and kind of getting them to grapple with the issues and embrace the power that Little Apple is embracing?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it always starts. Well, I think it always starts with the content. It
Hmm.
always starts with, people are usually pulled in by the trailer, then they watch the series,
Hmm.
and it just made most sense for me to create and marry the content with the curriculum or something that kids can do beyond offline,
Hmm.
not just off. When I say offline, I mean like outside of just watching it and then that being the end of the experience. Um, and so how do I do that? So with the curriculum, or the Little Apple experience, you can watch an episode, and what happens is there's a series of activities and deliverables that are done and given to students that they can use. It's a lesson plan they can
Okay.
use, and it's virtual. So they
Okay.
go through that process and then they go through the next episode and they go through the process again. But it's a series of activities and tools that schools can use depending on the kind of school that you're in. So say that you're in a hybrid school, we have a version for that. If you're in a strictly virtual school, we have a version for that. But the Little Apple experience is meant to be a full experience, not just for the students, but
Hmm.
for the entire educational experience. So also providing professional development for teachers in navigating these conversations, because we understand that when it's great to have a child watch about gentrification and speaking truth to power, but as a teacher, if you're not able to contextualize that or connect the dots between the episodes and the curriculum, then there's a problem. So what we did is we have an onboarding process that's 45 days long
Okay.
and 30 to 45 days long for the teachers to basically learn through us
Hmm.
how to navigate these conversations when talking about each episode
Hmm.
and each of the topics. So say you have a white teacher, our allies, hello, allies. Uh, you're trying to navigate this conversation talking about gentrification or dismantling the patriarchy. We give you tools and best practices in how to make sure that the conversations that you have remain safe.
That's so
Right.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. And so this is available to the New York City School District and districts beyond, I assume.
It is. It is. It's a registration process. Right now, we're taking it based off of submissions.
Mhm.
So if you're interested in joining the Little Apple universe and you want your students to be a part of it, right now we're registering people for for 2021 cohort that kicks off.
Mhm.
So you can join that process and we'll get you started.
Awesome. And so what if you're just a mom like me who just wants their child to have access to Little Apple, or who
Mhm.
wants their child to be able to watch the show? How do we interact with Little Apple Universe?
There's individual subscriptions as well.
Oh.
So what you do, you can sign up on littleappleuniverse.com
Mhm.
and you'll automatically get access to the complete season, all of the content that we have on the platform, which includes the Making Apple docu-series, that includes the comic book, that includes the podcast. And when you sign up, depending on the membership that you get, when you sign up, you also get access to the printed version of the comic book. So definitely reach out. And as a parent, as a family, you can do the same.
Repeat the address again. How do people
littleappleuniverse.com.
littleappleuniverse.com. Thank you so much. And so this it's just an amazing project. I really encourage folks to sign up to become a member of Little Apple Universe and check out the content, because the content is just gorgeous. Um and so Riley, tell me, are you an artist or an activist, or are you both? Do you separate? What inspires you to create?
What inspires me to create? Can you see me?
No.
I cannot. Is your camera off?
Nope.
Okay. We
Uh,
just, yeah, we lost you for 1 second. I can hear you though. So I'm pretty sure that our technician is going to work it out, and let's just keep the conversation going.
okay.
Okay.
What inspires me
There you
is,
go.
oh, okay, awesome. What inspires, I mean, well, life experiences mostly. Um, I'm inspired by a smell, by a quote.
Hmm.
If you're talking specifically to the stories that I've written, I'm inspired by, well, not necessarily inspired, but I'm influenced by current events.
Mm.
Uh, and honestly, I'm solution driven mostly
Mm.
when I create content. I'm not in the, and I'm realizing this more and more as I continue to be a filmmaker and a writer and produce content, produce work. Um, there has to be intention with my
Hmm.
work,
Hmm.
and it has to be solution driven. So I'm not just going, I mean, yeah, I'll make a film and that'll be great. But if I have a choice, I'll be creating, particularly for the Little Apple universe,
Hmm.
I lean towards breaking down and approaching systems of oppression and making them less threatening to us. So a
Hmm.
lot of times I feel like we approach like big concepts like patriarchy, racism, gentrification, and we can't always tackle it
Hmm.
in and of itself. So what I try to do, I try to break it down into something manageable, something that is that focuses on a solution to a particular point in it.
Okay.
So thing
And
that
then
is
the thing is, they cut off. They cut off. Okay. And so, oh, Deidre Fisher Kemp says that she would say you're an artivist. That's what you are.
artivists.
Yes, that's what Deidre says. Okay, and I think that sounds appropriate. That fits you.
Mhm.
And so, as an artivist, that's what we're going to call you. What other genres do you see yourself working in? Because I feel like sci-fi really is that medium that is so apt for as it's a vehicle for change. It always has been since Star Trek. It's always been used to kind of push new ideas and to push society's boundaries. But are there other mediums you see yourself working in,
Other mediums?
like music, like drama?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I think for Little Apple Universe,
No,
our
I just mean Riley at this point.
oh, Riley.
Yeah,
Okay.
Riley.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously animation, that's something that I'm into. But virtual reality is something that I plan on getting into at some point,
Okay.
maybe in the next decade. Um, and I've released books.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's basically, and that's a very layered question because I know that for most folks, a, a good amount of folks that look like me, access to internet is very important
Hmm.
and sometimes a barrier for us.
Hmm.
Uh, and so a lot of times I think about how do I get content to people?
Mm. Very
Like, how
important.
do I
Now,
actually get it in front of them?
I want to piggyback because we didn't talk about the fact yet that you won the American Black Film Festival with Little Apple,
Yeah.
right? And so, I know you have got like applause coming from all around. And so, of course, the festivals are a way that you get your content out there, right? Um,
Mhm.
and sometimes, having a distributor is a way that you get your content out there. Tell us a bit about your strategy because, I think there are lots of approaches. There's the independent approach, and there's the approach of partnering with a corporation. And so, what did you choose and why?
Well, I chose a whole combination of things.
Okay.
I did a crowdfunding campaign for Little Apple for my first projects, really. But I did for Little Apple, and I also sold ads for the comic book to local Harlem businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I threw parties with my friends, for my friends, and just raise money that way. But I got my budget.
Okay.
And so I mean, and that's what most times, especially if you're creating content that is for the people and not for the money, as much, the money will come. The money will come.
I guess, but I guess what I'm getting at is independence as a strategy versus selling your content versus you know, signing on with someone who might say, okay, now we own this. I want you to talk about independence as a strategy because I think that's something that you have embraced.
Yes, independence, and sort of like leaning on community.
Okay.
And what is it? What do you call it? Communal resources or sharing resources or something like that. I do lean towards things like that because, you know, partly out of no choice and partly because.
Well, is Little Apple for sale?
For sale?
Yeah.
I don't know if it depends on what the partnership is.
Okay.
Because I think at this point, Little Apple has created a very specific space, has nurtured and created a very specific space, and has cultivated a very specific audience. And so I think at this point, we offer much more than just content. That's what I was saying. And I think today, in today's time, look at what Ava did with Central Park 5 and creating that supplementary curriculum, you know? Or look at, you know, Hair Love and their book. You know, people aren't just, when they see a brand, they want the full brand. And giving them a full experience just adds more value and in essence, equity and power to what you've created, the content, the strong content that you've already created, you know? Also, I think that when it comes to independence, it allows you to be a little more nimble, to adjust to consumer preferences. So for example, when I first did Little Apple and I started releasing it, I started paying attention to how people were receiving it and what people were asking for after they watched it. So I was in schools, I didn't know that educators wanted a curriculum to go with it. That's why we created that, because we kept getting asked about the curriculum. If I would have sold this, I would have had to go through more holes, more approvals in order to get it produced in this way, if that makes sense. So there's an opportunity cost with everything, but there's also benefits to both sides.
Now, you know, I consider you to be one of our brilliant filmmakers, one of our brilliant artists who is really doing the work of furthering social change and making it something that's kind of palatable for young people, you know, because we don't want to be didactic. You don't want to always be preaching. And I feel like the way that you approach your work really does open up your viewers, open up young people, and it allows us to kind of delve in, get the message, and feel really good about it. And I'm so excited to hear that you are teaching your strategies to others. That you, that from what I understand, you will be working with Harlem Congregations for Community Improvement, HCCI, and ImageNation, and you will be teaching a cell phone filmmaking class. So in this COVID age, people don't have to leave their homes. They can just go online, use their cell phone, and learn from you, right?
Yeah. It's the claps for me. It's the claps. Yeah, absolutely. And so much of the power that we have to be content creators is at our fingertips.
And so tell us a little bit about the class. Tell us what you'll be teaching, and you know why people should take it.
Yeah. So, as you said, the class is focusing on making films on your phone that lives, you know, on social platforms, possibly, or it could be a standalone film. Now it starts next week, and essentially I'm breaking down, and I don't present myself as the expert when it comes to film, but I think I've done pretty well. And so I'm going to give my best practices and things that I've learned, but also I'm going to make sure that you guys or the participants are able to learn on their own and experience or experiment with content that they shoot. So for example, one of the first things that we do work on is a personal film narrative. And I think that that's important because on one hand, it kind of like allows you to just like test the waters and see what happens. But it's kind of like in my viewpoint, a stamp. So doing a personal film narrative at the top of the class shows me where you are in terms of your experience as a filmmaker and what your voice and your tone possibly is. And then from there, we learn what is the best practices and like, maybe we could have edited that differently. Here's some things that I've used in the past that have helped me to edit better on my phone. Or what are some tools that you could use in these 3 apps that could perfect that personal film narrative? Or work on a new project and there's an opportunity to do that in one of the later classes. But the idea is that at the end of this class, you should have a film.
Mm-hmm.
You should have best practices in terms of how to go about shooting, writing a script, getting the shot list, understanding, what your story is, the purpose of it, the theme, and then editing it on your phone, doing all of that on your phone so that you can export it and post it. Maybe you post it on Instagram, maybe you post it on, Tumblr, Twitter, or maybe you just have it as a single standalone film. But by the end of the class, these are the deliverables that you're gonna have.
And I see someone asked what the age group is. It's 14 to 21, correct? It's for young adults.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so I'm excited about that. If anyone is interested in the class, just throw your email in the chat box and we will send you the registration information. You can also visit hcci.org in about an hour and the registration will be up there. And Riley, tell us what's coming up next for you after Little Apple Universe. Tell us what's next.
Well, Little Apple Universe she has some friends coming.
Okay.
I am about to, we are in pre-production for another project called the Cookie Crunch Club.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're doing with this project is we are tackling community policing and police reform. And from a child's perspective and somewhat. So imagine if the Scouts of America were a private investigation firm that sold cookies.
Love it. Love it. That's awesome. That's very awesome. And so when will that happen?
Well, we'll start casting in the next week or 2, actually. So definitely stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
But we're moving fairly quickly because at the top of the year, we have our first cohort for 2021 for the Little Apple Universe so that people can register. If you're a parent, you can register at Little Apple Universe. If you're a school, you can register at Little Apple Universe and subscribe. And so part of this is adding more programming to your subscription once you get it.
Okay, awesome. So thank you so much, Riley. Thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is great. You know, you're my favorite. And so we also would like to have you come back at some point. Maybe when you have the Cookie Crunch Club, maybe we can come back and see a little bit of that and just keep the conversation going. And for anyone who is interested in Riley's class, I encourage you, check it out. Send us your email address or hit hcci.org in about an hour and the registration information will be up there as well. And of course, it's all about littleappleuniverse.com, right?
Yes.
Yes.com. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And congratulations on Soul Cinema Cafe. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, folks. So I guess we're going to wrap up the evening, the afternoon. I've been baking too much turkey and stuff. I'm saying evening when I mean afternoon. But I want to thank you all for being with us today and encourage you to please come back and join us next week for Lunch Break. This is a midday chat where we explore cinema, culture, community, and change at the virtual Soul Cinema Cafe. Lunch